So I get to be the Vanna White here, so very important job. So Ed, why don't you introduce yourself, tell people what's going on, and then we'll turn it over to Rebecca.
All right, great. It was good to see so many people come in at the last minute too. I know we're up against the behavior one, which is extremely interesting. I think they're out of room, so we're your second choice. That's terrific. I'm Ed Jamison, and I am the director for Dallas Animal Services. I have been in Dallas for a little over a year and a half. It was October of 17. I went there, and you may or may not know, Dallas has some major animal control issues as well as sheltering issues that my staff is working very hard on every day. I came from the city of Cleveland. I was born and raised in Northeast Ohio, and the Cleveland shelter was just on a smaller scale, but very similar to Dallas as far as bad reputation, didn't have the resources, and had to get things in the limelight and start doing good things to have the city start to care. And all of that, whether you're a smaller government shelter or bigger government shelter or a nonprofit doing contracts or a rescue, very few that are having huge impacts is a one-person show. And so I was very excited when they asked me to do this talk, which was talking about your team and the resilience, because I know you all know that the animal welfare business is easy, which is not the case at all, and it is hard every day getting up, and we need our teams to drive the work that we do. So we're happy to be talking to you.
Thanks, Ed. My name is Rebecca Guin. I'm the CEO and founder of an organization called Lifeline Animal Project. I started Lifeline in 2002, grassroots organization that we were working to build a no-kill community in Atlanta. We have a small private shelter, a couple of spay-neuter clinics, and we worked very hard for about a decade to make a difference in the Atlanta area. And much like Dr. Jefferson's story this morning that you heard this morning of working for 9 years, we worked for a decade and saw euthanasia rates, or save rates, because it was about the same, get to about 50%. When I started the organization, the two target counties that we worked in, Fulton and DeKalb County, which is the part of the greater Atlanta area and where the city of Atlanta is located, the euthanasia rates in those two counties were at 85%. So after 10 years, we got those rates down to an average of about 50%. And that was a lot of work, and we were not even close. In late 2012 and early 2013, the Fulton County contract came up for bid. That shelter had been run by the Atlanta Humane Society for about 40 years. There were a couple of other vendors in between, and there was no one to bid on the Fulton contract. And about that same time, DeKalb County decided that they were going to outsource their shelter operations. So in Fulton, there was what's called a request for proposal for animal control services and shelter operations. And in DeKalb, there was a request for proposal for shelter operations. And we had about 30 employees. I had a budget of about maybe almost $1 million with the two spay-neuter clinics. And we bid on those contracts, and we didn't think anything was going to happen in DeKalb County. We were awarded the Fulton County contract, and we were awarded the contract on January the 23rd of 2013. And the next day, DeKalb County awarded the contract to us for DeKalb County. So in March of 2013, we took over operations of the Fulton shelter, and then providing animal control services. And then July of that same year, we took over DeKalb County. So we went from having about 100 animals in our care and about 30 employees to having, well, the two shelters between them take in about 16,000 animals a year. Lifeline has 170 employees now. And we grew from a small grassroots organization to what we are today, which is probably the largest spay-neuter provider in the state of Georgia, and now really the largest sheltering organization as well. We saved, in 2018, 16,500 animals came in. We were able to save 14,000 of them, so about an 86% save rate. We work in a building in Fulton County that was built in 1978 to hold 80 dogs and no cats. So it's a challenge. We have a very large blocky-headed dog population in a shelter that it really only has group runs. So we have about eight dogs, 8 to 9 dogs. My shelter director in Fulton County is over here. I'm pointing her out. But we're fighting the fight, and I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be here with Ed. We have similar issues. He has a very different mandate. We both have to deal with governments. We're very different organizations. His is a government organization. We're a government contractor. But I'm looking forward to talking to you about what it means to lead these organizations.
So what's your definition of resilience? I mean, you've just given us idea of what some of the big challenges are for both your organizations and your communities. You've got a lot of people, a lot of animals. Sometimes that's the prescription for success. Sometimes that's the prescription for disaster. But what does resilience mean to you against that backdrop?
Yeah, and it's such an interesting topic, because for me, resilience it's just every single day having to be able to get up and fight through it. Anybody who's in this industry and you say that every day was a good day, then I need your medicine or whatever it is that you take, because no matter what your volume is, there are just things between unpredictable animals as well as unpredictable people that you deal with. You have to find a way to be able to fight through things. In Dallas, we bring in about 36,000 dogs and cats a year. About 200 employees, 1.3 million is the population. We serve just the city of Dallas. So it's just a lot. There's so much diversity and that big of a scope that you run into all different kinds of things. I preach to my staff about trying to win the day, because if you get too far out, their job needs to be handling their tasks. And let me think on the further out and just try to win each day. And if you win more days than you lose, then you're going to end up all right. We're very happy in Dallas that our mandate is to deal with every single loose dog in the city. And any one of you, we can go on my truck, and within 5 miles, we'll find 3 dogs. It is insane. So we can't stick our head in the sand and act like there's not a situation out there. We're finding that most of these dogs are owned. And so one of the biggest things that I had to get my team to embrace on is getting dogs back to their owners. Why do we want to have to adopt them and go through all the things, making a new bond and connection, when we're able to get them back to their owner? Because they're going to get another dog anyway. So I'm speaking a few times throughout the weekend, and it hit me that even though I've only been there a year and a half, we've raised our return to owner rate 265% in the last 4 years. And we're extremely happy that just in the last 2 months, we were over 90% for the first time, even with the highest ever dog intake. So when people say it can't be done, it can be done, but you have to be resilient, and every single day you have to fight. There are days that we have to euthanize for space, and we look at those animals. Why didn't we get them out? What could we have done to get them out? And so kind of in the big picture, that's resilience to me, is looking at the whole picture and knowing you got to put your boots back on the next day and go right back out there. Because as you know, you don't get to take a day off. You may have a scheduled day off, but your organization is going. If you have one animal in your care, it means you're caring for that animal. I have officers that work 365 days, around the clock. So it's being able to every single day strap the boots on and start the fight over again every morning. You're going to walk into 600 dogs worth of poop that needs to be picked up, and dogs that need to get out in the play group every single day, no matter how clean it was when you left at the end of the shift.
Cool. I don't have to do that. I actually, I'm over an organization that has, I think we have 6 different locations. So we have the clinics, the 2 shelters, the field officers. We have an outreach program. And my job is to make sure the people on the ground doing the work have what they need to succeed. And I have to maintain an just unwavering faith that we will succeed. And so I think for me, resilience is to maintain that faith, and probably in the face of evidence to the contrary, because sometimes it looks really hard. We have different challenges. we had a similar situation. I think one of the things that caused the situation in Dallas where Ed has a mandate that he has to pick up every stray dog, and if there are stray dogs out there, it's their responsibility to do something about it. And that came from a dog attack, and where an individual was killed. We had a similar situation in Atlanta where owned dogs were loose, attacked a group of school children, and one of the children, one little boy was killed, and another little girl was severely maimed. And we were fortunate in that situation in that we didn't get the reaction that happened in Dallas, which was, all right, I think at one point they were talking about shooting them from helicopters. It was stunning what happened there. We were able to convince both the Atlanta City Council and the Fulton County government to start to invest more in some proactive programs. Wasn't a big investment, but it was at least something, and give our officers the chance to patrol. But there was no way with basically a 15,000 square foot shelter that we could take on any more animal control officers. We have 15 officers. The idea that we would have 60, which is what he has it's just not possible. So there's no way that we could get through that kind of mandate without the city or the county investing in infrastructure. So we had to convince them that there was another way to go about this, and I feel glad that we were able to do that. And part of my job is to take that heat and have those conversations and give our folks on the ground, my shelter directors, our animal control officers, our folks in the kennel, our placement teams, give them the space they need to do the work, because they're the real lifesavers. And I can go on and on, but I'll pause.
So what do you do about the negative, all the negative comments that come out of social media, even when you're trying your hardest to do the right thing?
Well, we don't have any negative comments in Dallas.
Oh, that's so awesome. That's so awesome.
Yeah, we got it all figured out. Again, you're all industry professionals, so it's hard to believe anybody doesn't get anything that's negative. One of the things that drew me to Dallas, to going to this big crazy place that's all in the news, there's literally packs of dogs running everywhere. I think we lost count trying to figure it out. I think it was at least 8 directors in 8 years. So I'm like, why do I want to give up? We've done a bunch of work in Cleveland and go there. It's because of the work that's getting done. It's because of the passion that's in there. So Dallas is extremely open. We have a live open data portal. So my officers have laptops, tough books in their trucks. So their calls are dispatched through 311. They show up. The public can see those calls are dispatched. When they actually pick up an animal and impound it into the system, that A number is on there. They can track that animal all the way through the disposition of the call. So the openness really helps me in my job on when there is something negative. And sometimes they say something negative and it's true. But to me, we want to be out in front of things. So the fact that things are live, my staff does a good job of reporting, hey, this situation happened. We know it, and we're able just to jump right out, and we can point to we're not hiding anything. I know everybody's heard it's the cover-up that always gets you. So because Dallas is so open, we don't pretend that we're perfect. We're doing terrific, but we're in no way, shape, or form done. We're not at a sustainable stage. That's years and years and years if we ever even get there. But the negative stuff, there are people who hate people like me and Rebecca simply because of our position. They think we have a job like this because we want to kill animals. And those days are gone. Most of those people are out of this industry. I know there's still some leftovers. But we're able to let our transparency speak for ourselves. And when an officer messes up or an employee messes up, we have a process on training, disciplining. I've got some of the Dallas Rescue here. They know there's people who no longer work at Dallas Animal Services that had been an issue for a long time. And you just have to take it on the chin and really learn from it and do something. Most people, I tell my kids, just say, okay, I'm sorry, and I'll try not to do it again. And then I can't yell at them anymore when they just do that. And it's kind of the same philosophy I have. We acknowledge it, and then we're going to act on it on trying to do something better. So, but you can't change everybody, especially in the era of social media. But what's happening in Dallas now is that people that were against us just because we were the agency, they're now becoming our advocates and being the ones that are fighting the fight. So half the stuff that's said that's negative isn't even true. And so when volunteers, rescue groups are able to jump in and do the fighting, I don't even have to have my social media person, combat that. But if it is a mistake we made, then we usually go right through the City of Dallas public information and just own it, and try to learn from it.
So Rebecca, how have you been able to build a team that stands behind you?
I think the task for me was to build a team that I'm standing behind. I mean, I really, when Ed and I were in a meeting yesterday, and both of us agree that it was part of our job to take the bullets, and I worked to do that. When you talked about social media, sometimes things happen and we make mistakes, and it's often my job to say we made a mistake and we are sorry, and we will put something in place so that this doesn't happen again, and we do that. And I'd like to say that we're perfect, but we are not, and we've made quite a few mistakes, and sometimes that blows up on social media and sometimes it doesn't. The temptation to address every naysayer on social media is high, and I spend some of my time talking people off the ledge, because really it's awful when people say stuff about us, especially things that aren't true, or call us names. I remember when we first took over the Fulton County shelter, people really didn't know much about Lifeline, and one of the reasons that we've invested a lot in social media is that we needed to make a name for ourselves to get the animals out. And someone had, they're just talking about kill shelters, which we really aren't a kill shelter. We do have to euthanize animals, but we work very hard to save their lives. And so it was something like POS, piece of shit. Sorry. Edit
We're
that.
on TV too.
They'll edit it out. It's okay.
But we were really excited about getting to the shelters, and they were powered by Lifeline Animal Projects. And I remember, reading this thing. It was like POS SOB kill shelter, blah blah blah, and then Laura Hudson, our director, says powered by Lifeline Animal Project. So you got to have a sense of humor. But I think the real thing is, the original question was, a team that stands behind me. I do everything I can to make sure that I am worthy of their belief. I really do, and I think that's a personal journey. And I'm there when they need me to help, but for the most part, I trust them to make the right decision. And the thing what's made the organization successful and the people in the organization that are successful are the people that have ownership of our vision, of our mission, and of the organization. And that's the team that I've tried to build, and I think we've been pretty successful at that. You think? Okay.
Cool. So here's a question for both of you. And you know how much I love these things that are, name 2 things, name 3 things. So if you were thinking of the character traits of resilience and leadership and team building, what would be 3 character traits that you guys would think would be important ingredients for making that a reality? Okay, don't answer all at once.
For me, I think the first thing is honesty. I think having personal integrity, and also looking for and demanding honesty out of the team. Being willing to look at some really hard things and make the changes necessary. You have to be able to look at the brutal facts. And in animal welfare, there are a lot of things like that we need to take responsibility for. And so honesty and personal responsibility. And just really a faith that we are going to get this done. I truly believe in the organization. I truly believe in this movement and the people, in you. I believe in all of you, that we are going to make this change. And no one's going to we're not going to have modifiers on shelters, whether it's POS, SOB, kill shelter or no kill shelter. It's just going to be shelter. We're all going to save lives.
I think you have to be strong but compassionate because it's rough. It is a grind. Before I became a director, I was a chief in Cleveland, but before that, I used to run marathons. And I so equate this business to it's a marathon. You have to run it really fast, but it's not a sprint. And so while you're being strong, you have to be compassionate in your decisions. It's impossible to make everybody happy. It's just flat out impossible. And so although I challenge my staff to try to find yeses, whether it's to the customer, the citizens, council, anybody deals with the council, it's usually really, really crazy things they say. I'm gonna start with the yes, but then if it's a no, just know that you have reason behind why you're making that decision, and that you did make it with giving it the thought. You said about being honorable. I think that is real big, because if your team trusts you, they don't even have to like you to trust you. That goes really, really far in them doing the tough things that they have to do throughout their day. So I acknowledge it all the time. We'll start some meetings where I say this isn't going to be a pleasant meeting, but we've got to talk about some things that aren't working well, and we're going to try to find an answer out of it. That's like two and a half. Is that good?
I think that's awesome. So how do you handle burnout or compassion fatigue or even the emotional stress, among your staff?
Well, I'm going to jump in here just because this came to light yesterday at the meeting Rebecca and I were at, is that neither of us drink, because everybody else I know in this industry just says that they like wine or their beer or their whatever is what helps to get them through. But it's hard. I mean, it really is, and it's the taking the bullets, because we are trying to jump in front of so that our staff can keep their head down and do the things that they do, so that our rescue groups can put their heads down and keep rescuing with the purpose, so the volunteers can come in and do that really, really, those difficult things. So I try to stay strong for the staff. There's, occasions when you break down, but they're going to follow what we do at the end of the day, because I would like to think that they respect me, and they respect Rebecca. So the face that we put on for them, and when it is a time to cry or to huddle and say that this is really, really bad and we need to do these, whatever the tough decision, or get through distemper when it came through our shelter. I think we had almost 700 dogs at that time, and because we were trying to save lives, we had dogs peppered everywhere. So we couldn't even say what dog had been next to who, because anytime a cage opened, we were just getting another dog in there. It was tough. We went right to Facebook Live, went out. We had meetings like crazy with the staff and all the stakeholders, and I think we had record adoptions during that period because we just took on that adversity like that. And we didn't know. We were really, really concerned about, when you run out of cages and you no longer can co-house and all of those things, we had a lot of things off the table. But it's a grind. You just have to keep grinding. And kind of put your money where your mouth is, that if you say you're going to do it, just go out and find a way to do it.
Talking about being honest and looking at the brutal facts, I think we really struggle with compassion fatigue. I know that there are, at least I have, in the past, there have been people in the organization, and many of them aren't with the organization anymore, that they get to the point where they feel like they are the only person that can take care of that animal. And if you see that in yourself, you have compassion fatigue. You need to take a vacation, go to the beach, do something. There's a paradox, because there are jobs within our shelter, our rescue coordinators, our foster coordinators, that the demand is 24/7, and they are not able to succeed in those jobs unless they're willing to do the 24/7 demand, and they want to do that. That is just a recipe for burnout. So it's something that we struggle with. I think that the staff being able to trust me or come to me and feel like I will at least do my best, and I also encourage the staff to be supportive of each other, and I think that we're really lucky that we have a team that can do that will help to pull each other up. But it's something that we're struggling with. One of the things when we were preparing for this earlier, we have really different organizations. This is a government organization, so there's flexibility, but there are also an awful lot of structures in place and rules that have to be followed. And papers that have to be filled out and all this kind of stuff. And we're like a grassroots organization. I'm like, yeah, whatever, let's just get it done. There've been a lot of growing pains. I think that, if you've got the right people doing the right jobs, a lot of these things can work out. But we're building in some structures now, trying to address morale and culture. There's a question in the audience.
Oh.
Yeah, why don't we switch mics, and then we can...
All right. While you're walking out there, on that same question, the team aspect is huge. Cleveland was so much smaller, myself and, a handful of people could go and handle just about any fire. It's too big in Dallas. It's just too big. So we're really, really focusing hard on a team. And so whether somebody's just feeling down, they're burnt out, they made a mistake, that when you've got them really acting as a team, it cuts in on the amount of wear and tear because they can absorb it all as a group as opposed to an individual taking it all on their shoulders.
I was just wondering if you guys offer, or if you know of any shelters or government organizations that offer like professional therapy type of relief for some of these people that have to do, mass euthanasias or deal with this stuff or have been there for 10, 15 years. Do y'all offer anything like that?
It is a great question because the city of Dallas, we've actually just embarked on this. We started meetings about 3 weeks ago. And so it's my department, the police department, fire, and then really all the way through Office of Homeless Solutions and everything, because you've got kind of that frontline PTSD, compassion fatigue. You've got the people who work at the intake desk that just all day, where we have 10,000 animals surrendered every year, so it's just nonstop people coming and they're like, oh my gosh, we just opened up cages and now there's 10 more people standing out there. So we are trying to work on a citywide City of Dallas thing that whenever we get what we're, ultimately land on, I'll make sure that I message Dr. Jefferson, because I think that's something that everybody, and if anybody else has anything on that type of issue, but we're trying to get a citywide. I actually did have a name sent to me. I don't want to say the wrong one. It's on my phone in my pocket here, who I was actually going to call to see if they were able to help us. So. If I find that before, I'll give you my card, or you give me your information. I can email it directly to you.
Did you want to volunteer? We do have an employee assistance program, and that people can take advantage of. But it's a tough issue. I don't think we have. We don't have so much the issue of people having compassion fatigue over having to perform euthanasia, but we do have, when you've got 9 big dogs in a pen, it's tough, and so the conditions, the number of animals in our care, sometimes our employees get bit and get hurt. The dogs get hurt sometimes, and so it is tough.
Yep.
I am a therapist, so.
You're hired.
Did you want to volunteer?
Sure. Actually, I was trying to find out, I asked when I was trying to figure out where my place would be. I did find out Best Friends had 2 therapists that did volunteer for their staff. So that may be a place, somebody to ask, because I was, what could I do? How would I fit in? I know they had 2 volunteers in that area that worked at the sanctuary.
Yep.
So I would check with them.
Yeah, definitely look into that. And I think just another piece of that, we all know we need to do better and more for our employees and the people in the shelter. One of the things in our discussion yesterday too that we all kind of came to agreement on is the social aspect with the people out in the field. These aren't animal issues we're dealing with, they're people issues. And so I've been trying to preach that to Dallas. I'm catching more dogs than ever. Are you happy? Dog bites are still the same. Dog bites haven't gone down. We could seize dogs from a house, they're going to get more, and all the other conditions at the house are not being met. The house is still dilapidated, the people still are living in poverty. So I think that whole social component is huge.
Go ahead. Oh, I just wanted to say, on the self-compassion note, I worked at a domestic violence center for many years, and we built self-compassion into our culture at work through monthly meetings and lunch and learns and check-ins and trainings. And we also branched out to first responders in the community. So it was helpful, and I can see how it could spread across the community to touch on all of those occupations.
Thank you. Other questions? Oh, come on, it's the end of the day.
They're right behind you. Yep.
Okay. Oh, great, thank you.
I'm just wondering, in your experience, are there any programs that you have in place just for employee appreciation? And if so, what do you think is the most profound, thing that you have in place in that regard?
I mean, for us, that's something that we're working on. I ask all of our leadership, members of our leadership team to look for bright spots amongst the employees. When I first put this out to the team, they were all supposed to send me a good employee story each pay period. That was the idea. And 2 team members understood that, and the rest understood it as a good animal story. So I got a lot of really good, cute animal stories. When I tried to explain it again, I think I still got a few animal stories. I think they understand now that we're looking for recognizing great things that the employees are doing and putting into practice saying thank you to them, because that's being very specific about it. This is how it helped. This is what it meant to me, and I really appreciate that. And so we're trying to encourage that with our team. It is a work in progress. It is a work in progress. It's something that when we started out with just, really a handful of really committed people, and we were just going to do something great for the animals. And now it's a large group of people that need more attention, I think, than the organization started out with. And so that's something that we're working to put in place. But saying thank you actually goes a long way.
Yeah, that's like, we try to, when certain milestones, we're pretty good at throwing a party at Dallas. So we do lunches a lot, and if you've ever had Tiff treats, cookies, I never had them until I moved to Dallas. They're like amazing. So I'm always telling my assistant director, we need to celebrate something so we can get a bunch of Tiff treats in. So we try to do those kind of things, but what gets, to me, what has the best effect on the daily stuff is I try to walk the building, I try to go out in the field, and I just try to shake my people's hands when I see them and just say thank you, good work. So it's like the little thing. Everybody loves a big party, and everybody loves Tiff's treats, but the little thing showing that you're actually seeing them, for me at least in Dallas, is that's what I get the most bang for, and I like to do that. That's my favorite thing, is to be out and around and with them. Get out from behind that stupid desk and go see with the people that are actually working.
I think in each one of our locations, our teams do a lot more. So they have the lunches and try to do more for the staff. I used to smoke, and so I'd always bond with the smokers, whoever they were, at whatever location, and that was a really good way to get to know folks, and have that connection with people. And I actually think it made a difference. I kind of miss. Well, I vape. I took up vaping, and it's too much information, too much personal information, and I'm oversharing. But just finding that minute away from everything, that little break on the side of the building, actually with whoever's there, has gone a long way for me.
And, all right.
Hi,
Hey, can I finish this just with his question? I was at a training about a month ago the city manager put on, and they said something, I haven't started doing it yet, but they said to just randomly email a person on your staff. So whether you use a dartboard or you have something that picks a name, and just a random name, just saying, good morning, this is the director, just want to say I appreciate you and have a good day. And I have it written on I have a bunch of sticky notes or my things that I haven't done that I need to do. And I think that a total random person, they might work night shift, who I never ever see, and they just log onto their computer and are going to see a message. So I'm sorry.
It's okay. Hi, my name is Jennifer. I'm with Bark Animal Shelter in Houston. So we're a municipal animal shelter. So with that, that means that we don't often get promotions or raises or things like that. So we actually had our foundation, as well as a private donor, start a program called Legendary Service. So what we do is we give a staff member $2,000 twice a year. So they get nominated by customers, by other employees, and they submit those nominations, and we create a video, and we have our staff vote on that, and whoever wins that gets, the cash and, of course, public recognition. So that's always cool.
Yeah, that's
so that's
awesome.
all. But you can always reach out to maybe your community, and hopefully they can donate and make that possible for you. So.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So you all should come to the Innovation Grants presentation that Shelley Thompson is doing. I think it's like the last session on the last day, because I definitely could see an innovation grant to be able to provide funding like that, to start a fund, to be able to offer those kinds of bonuses in, for your employees.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Hi, I'm Greg Hall from Nevada Humane Society. Ed, you mentioned, I think, that there were 8 directors in 8 years, and our shelter has had similar turnover at the top. And I'm just curious, in terms of resilience, how did your employees respond to that turnover, and what, if anything, did you do to address that situation? And I suppose the question can be to both of you, if appropriate.
Yeah, it was a really big hole to even just walk into, and even go into that office. I'm like, do I want to be in this office? Everybody gets cut who goes in here. But for my staff, I saw it really, really quickly in being there. They were like shell-shocked. They're just like, who's next? All right, they brought some goofball from up north down here this time, and let's see how that goes. So it made it that much more important to get their trust, to show them that I was on their side. When we were talking earlier in preparation for this, I was just talking about, and actually I think I have a little video in a talk I'm doing later, where I went and cleaned kennels on the second week, had my assistant director come with me, and just showed them that I was one of them and I was really there for them. There's those first 4 to 5 months, you could just feel the tension, and that they're like, we want to believe this guy, but is he just going to be the next one to leave? I would like to think, I think we're over the hump there on that. I'm not trying to go anywhere. I mean, the politicians could have a totally different idea, and they could boot me tomorrow, and I wouldn't have any control over it. But I love what we're doing. I think that our success shows them that this can be done. And you really just have to get in there and show them that what your intentions are. And people take jobs for all different kind of reasons. And at least for me, the people who know me, my animal commission says it all the time. They're like, you really love your job, don't you? And so if they're seeing that when I meet with them every 2 months, and they're seeing that when I'm just talking about our data and our stuff and our things that are going good and our things that are going bad, I think my staff sees that. And it's really, you just have to try to get to connect with them, because it's hard. We have to tell them no not all the time, but you do. And if they trust you, I think most of my staff will do just about anything I ask them to do at this point. Most.
We don't have a lot of turnover at the higher level of the organization. If you get the title director behind your name, there's a tattoo required, and that no. People, again, we try to foster that ownership of the organization, and I believe that the folks at the higher leadership levels of the organization really do share in that vision and ownership. We've had a couple of transitions. When we came into the Fulton shelter, we hired most of the people there, almost everyone except the upper management. So there are people that work in the Fulton shelter that have worked there since the 80s, I think, right? Like Todd's been there since the 80s. And when it was closed to the public, 90% kill rate, 72 hours and hold, and then they were killed. There were no adoptions. There were no transfer to rescue. And we have a fellow that's worked in the kennel that whole time and has seen a lot of transitions. So some of our employees have had 4 different vendors managing the shelter. And sometimes I wonder if they actually know who they work for. I think they do now. We're the first organization to actually be awarded a second 5-year contract. And I think they believe in us now. I think they feel that they're a part of something special. And that really goes to, I keep looking at Laura because she runs that shelter. Laura Hudson's here. She's the director of Fulton County Animal Services for Lifeline. And that's really her leadership, that we did not go in like gangbusters trying to change everything or fire everybody or anything like that. Laura went in and spent time getting to know what was going on there. There were 1 or 2 changes that we made right away that she could see, this is going to get animals out much quicker if we do this. And they, but it wasn't really rocking the boat. I think the important thing for us going in was, pick your battles. Let's change the things we got to change right away and give people time to acclimate. So in our other shelter in DeKalb County, we had a director that wasn't really working for us the way I wanted. And we changed directors at that shelter, and we went in there like gangbusters because it was ours, and we'd already been there, and it did not go over well. We really had to back up and realize that we were alienating people with our positive attitudes. It's pick your battles and take it slow.
Yeah, that's such a big deal. Coming in too hot, people are scared to change. They just are. And my assistant director started about a month before me. He had been with the city of Dallas for about 10 years. Great, young, up-and-coming guy, super, super smart. And we could see this stuff. He's got a business mind. So he could see things that needed to be done. So he came in and was like, da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, dude, I'm not even there yet. You're killing me because I'm already getting messages. And he was doing it with the best intentions, but it was like, go ahead and buy the trucks and do some of these things that are more behind the scenes. But the frontward facing, yes, they're going to have to change. But if you come in and on day one, unless it's something that's just vehemently wrong, that you just need, that's illegal, immoral, something like that, I couldn't agree with that more. That it's as much as I like to be in, even if I know something, I prefer let me go ride with that crew or go work in that in that pod with that shelter, and then it's going to be a lot easier while I'm scrubbing and saying, we're not able to hit this spot because the handle's too long and you can't reach. Where if I just tell them we're going to change the brooms on them. They at least know I'm talking from, a place of actually doing it before you start changing it.
So I just have a question about being met with the resistance of, well, we've never done it that way before, and that's, we don't do that. Coming in, I'm a new director at a shelter, and that's occasionally something that I get, and I have my own thoughts and ideas about how to manage that, but I'm wondering in y'all's experience how you guys have managed that.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I love bringing in credible people from the outside. And there's people who call me stupid all day long, but if I bring Brent Toner with me and he sits next to me, go ahead and call Brent an idiot. And I just did this at an animal commission that I knew was going to be a hot topic thing. And so I've been saying this for months and months and months. I already know best friend's thoughts and Brent's thoughts. Bring them in. I brought the ASPCA in when I was in Cleveland. I love to bring other people in, one, to get their opinions, and then sometimes they're exactly on what you were thinking, but you now have that built in that you've got another credible source, and it's not just the goofy new person with these ideas. I know we're all sick of hearing this is how it's always been done. If I hear that one more time in my life, the reality is I'll probably hear it on Wednesday when I go back to work. You try not to be too harsh on it. I knew I was bringing playgroups to Dallas. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts. I saw that in Cleveland, the effect that DPFL had, and I knew it. And if you haven't done playgroups, and even me, I'm an animal control officer by trade, and I thought playgroups were the stupidest thing ever 6 years ago. I thought there's no way you can do something like that, and I'm their biggest cheerleader now. So you have to kind of build up to it and talk about some things that you're gonna try, and then whenever you've got the ability to not force somebody, if you can not force somebody into doing something they're vehemently against, and let them kind of see it from the outside, eventually they realize they're not the cool kid. All the cool kids are doing this new program you're doing, and then they start asking that they want to be a part of it.
Yeah, I think that's really true. It goes back to picking your battles, and timing is everything sometimes. I have this. Well, one of the things that we're trying to do is cross-train, get people more training, that kind of thing. get people to realize what's happening in other parts of the organization, because we have so many different locations and different functions. The shelter leadership operations team is all here for this conference, which is, last year I was here by myself speaking and had a great time, and I'm like, man, I need the team to be here just so they can see there are others out there doing the same thing, wanting the same things, having some of the same struggles, because I think that's really important. I mean, I don't think Ed and I could be really much more different. We're pretty different people, but we had so much in common in that meeting yesterday. And it's really, I mean, he's running a marathon and I won't even take the stairs. So that we're dealing with a lot of the same things. So it's really great to have people come in. And sometimes it's just not the right time. I want to say about 3 or 4 years ago, HSUS offered to fund playgroups training for all of our shelters. So it's a pretty substantial offer. And I went to the shelter directors, and I have never seen so much resistance over something ever. Now, part of it is our dog population, and we're talking even a shelter that, we got essentially a play group in every run, but there was tremendous resistance. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to push it. And I want to say about 3 years later, they kind of warmed up to it and love it, doing all kinds of things, and even more building on those ideas and to build more enrichment into the shelters, and have embraced it. And actually asked for the training to come back a second time. So we had volunteers raise money to be able to pay for it a second time. It just, how important is it? How important is it? And if it's really important, do it. And if you can wait, give it a minute.
Yeah, and think about it too, that hopefully if you're coming into a place, if you have people who want to do things that are going to kill animals unnecessarily, that's when you got to just do it. That's when you just got to do it. So as you know, with any progressive programming, that's hard for people to get. They're good people. They love animals. It's why they're working, in the place that they're working. So deep down, they love that. So you have to just try to find the way to, to tap into them. That this is, it might be harder, but it's ultimately going to be better for the animals. So if you're able to, I don't want to say spin because that makes it seem like you're not telling the truth, but find a way to deliver it on what the outcome for the animal is going to be. And most of them, if they're in the job for the right reason, if you can tap into that every time you're trying to make a change, if you're doing it just because, hey, I'm the director and I want my life to be easier, they're going to tell you to go fly a kite. But if you're doing it because it's going to help more animals or help the animals have a better quality of life in their care, in your care, you usually will have a pretty good chance at getting them to buy in.
And the object is not to get everybody to stay. The object is to get the right people to stay. And it took me a while to learn that. I took it personally if someone quit. So sometimes you need to share them with the competition, as they say.
Other questions? Comments? Okay, so why don't, so I'm going to ask for an unfair question and ask you guys, what was, give us an example of like the hardest day you've had at the shelter, and how did you deal with it? Because obviously you both are still here, you're still employed, you were able to come to this conference.
That list is so long. Let's see, I got my window smashed out when I came to Dallas over a dangerous dog that I wouldn't place with the law. There's just some rough days, but one that jumps to mind, there's tons of animals that we weren't able to help. There's just lists of those. They were either so hurt, or be it you were in a space issue or whatever. Something that I can't ever get out of my head, when I was in Cleveland, and anybody who knows anything about the city of Cleveland shelter, they've got a new building that's opening this month, but it's the building is one of the worst in the country. Brent's been to a lot of shelters, and he goes, man, I thought mine in KC wasn't good, and it looks like a palace compared to this. We worked our tails off. It was just before, I was just in the interview process for Dallas, but we were packed, we put out a plea, did all kind of temporary things, and it was basically a clear to shelter. As fast as dogs came in, people had showed up to adopt. We couldn't keep up. And I had been lobbying the city for more funding. And so at the end of all of this, we had just these insane adoption numbers in Cleveland, and I still had like over 3/4 of the adopted animals were still in the shelter. And I was so mad just because of the process to get the funding, to get these animals fixed. And so I'm like begging groups and vets, I can't pay you because we're a city, so I can't give you money. But you know, I'm running out of cages even though I've got 100 and something animals that can leave as soon as I get them fixed. So I don't know if that goes into like the heartbreaking, but those kind of things, when you're able to fix the business end of your job, and money, it's important. You need finances in order to do this stuff. But when you can find other ways to get it done. So I was driving, I think, from Cleveland to Canton, which is about 70 miles, anywhere to get 1 or 2 dogs fixed just to get them out. But it was so hard looking in there. I said, man, the staff deserved to have no dogs in here because everything that could have been adopted was adopted.
I don't know. There have been so many. I'm tormented by where it seems to be like it's an existential threat to the organization, and some of them I really would prefer not to talk about. When we took over the DeKalb shelter, the county didn't invest very much in a transition, so we were actually displacing county workers, and they gave all those folks jobs, or let them keep jobs, but they no longer had a job function because it had been outsourced to us. And they were in the same building with us. So they were literally people sitting in customer service with absolutely nothing to do but throw attitude. And so we weren't welcomed. I don't think that the county could have managed it. It was an interesting time. Anyway, and we hadn't been given access to the building either, so we had to staff up for a shelter that was full of animals within 2 weeks, and that was tough to find that many people. And we had hired a fellow that seemed pretty good, had a good resume, and seemed to have good experience and was good with the dogs. And the shelter had cameras in it, and the county personnel had caught this fellow on camera hitting a dog with a stainless steel bowl. And before they contacted me about it, they gave the tape to the media. And so I saw it on TV, with my organization and, animal cruelty and stuff like that. And that goes back to, you stand up and you tell the truth and you take the hit. There was a reporter, and I'm so grateful for this man. He wouldn't stop calling me. And I'm like, I really don't know what's going on here. I don't know what's going on with the county. I just saw this on TV. And he's like, look, you need to come down here and you need to talk to all of us. And you need to tell us what you're going to do about it. Otherwise, we're just going to make up a bunch of stuff. I'm like, okay, all right. So I went there. I stood in the parking lot of that shelter. It was like a press conference. I had all the stations there. This is not a small media market. This is Atlanta. And we've been running this shelter. We came in July, and I think this happened in August. So it didn't look good at all. But I stood up and didn't make excuses. Didn't give all the story that I'm giving now, like, the county did this to us. It was just, we messed up, so it's not a good hire, and we're putting things in place, and it'll never happen again. And it was 15 seconds of, we lost one donor out from it, one opportunity from it, but, and we've not had something like that happen again, but sometimes you just have to stand up and say, we blew it. And we're sorry, and we're going to do better. It was not our intent to beat animals. So.
Thank you. So we just have a few minutes left, but what one thing would you want these folks to take home with them when they start thinking about building a resilient team and what resilience might mean for their own community and their own organization?
Yeah. A lot of times I take a poll of the group just to get an idea of, are you government, nonprofit, or rescue or whatever, but it doesn't even matter. The work that this industry is doing When I started in it, I don't know, a decade and a half ago, just never ever would have thought it would be to where it is now. I don't make decisions to get to a number, and I'm at a no-kill conference. I'm on boards and groups with. I make decisions knowing that the numbers are going to get better as you make good decisions and do more things. I think that number is probably going to end up somewhere about 93 or 94% when everything is hitting on all cylinders. But the work that you're doing, and when you are getting pounded on, if you know you're doing the right thing, just try to find it somewhere to get through that, whatever it is, your whine, your where you go home and cry, whatever, but don't quit on it. It's too important. Things go backwards. Even in my big facility, when we have our thumb on things and we're pushing, we're getting results, we back up to go to something else. As soon as you let up, things start to slowly drift back until you have what the new norm is. So just try to find a way. There's a ton of peers in here that are going through or have gone through whatever it is you might face tomorrow or the next day or whatever. So, and it's probably pretty crappy because there's a lot of crappy things that happen throughout the course of our day and our careers. So hopefully you make some good connections if you don't already have them, that you can at least just call somebody. You can ask Kristen. She calls me all the time when she's getting beat on in Pima County. She's like, let me call Ed in Dallas because I'll feel better about myself. So, hopefully, and again, I have my information that if there's anything that anybody, to call and just say, man, I heard you talk in Austin and we're kind of dealing with something. Don't quit on it because it's that important. We're close. We're really close, I think, nationally, of just everybody doing the right thing. And whatever that number falls on nationally, when everybody is doing everything that can be done, I think it's a number that everybody's going to be pretty happy with.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, this is a historic moment. I think we're in a very historic time where we're taking a system. We talked a lot yesterday about a system that's built on a broken foundation, a system that was developed to address a problem, the rabid dog, that doesn't really exist anymore. And we've turned a lot of that on its head. We're changing those. We're turning what was 100% kill shelters into 100% life-saving shelters, and you are the ones that are making that change. So you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in the people around you, and trust that we can do this. We can do this. You are it. And this is what I say to my team. No one's coming. There's no better people to do this than the people in this room right now. And you're it. So let's do it.
Thank you both so much.
Be open. We have no shortcuts as one of our credos, and it is such a big deal that trying to do things the right way, even when it's hard and you're going to get some social media or whatever, but if you're making a decision, you have a reason, you're going to be able to build off that. Try not to take shortcuts in this journey.
Thank you all for being here, and I hope you have a great dinner.